Welcome back everybody to a brand new landscape photography vlog. We are back yet again here in Allegheny State Park, and it is a beautiful late spring day. Well, not late spring, late winter day. It's technically not spring yet. And it was like 71 degrees today. A little too warm for my liking at this point, not really climatized to the heat yet, but absolutely gorgeous day. And got to the park a lot earlier than I have been the past couple of days, which has led to some really great discoveries. I was finally able to check out a really awesome roadside spot that I've had my eye on for a long time. Left that spot, and now I'm here at Science Lake, and I've got some really good light. I've been messing around with a lot of these rippling water reflections that you can see here. I really wanted to do a lot of stuff with reflections here lately because of the close proximity of the other shoreline, which you don't really have at Red House and Quaker. So I really was looking forward to those opportunities. But today, I don't know if you can really tell, it's pretty windy today, and I was worried that wind would spoil a lot of the reflections, but I was completely wrong. The wind has actually made it a lot better. And I took some time to put on the 600 and punched in on a lot of these amazing rippling water textures at high shutter speeds, and they just look absolutely fantastic. So I'll show you guys a couple of those frames just so you can kind of get an idea of what I am working with. And when you add in reflecting trees that are catching some of this really nice low angle sunlight, it makes for some really awesome sort of like fine art imagery, really nice abstract stuff, which has been a goal of mine to sort of improve on and try to practice a lot over the spring. Rippling water patterns and reflections are a great way, very simple way to start trying to get better and practicing that stuff. And a lot of those images might seem very random, but really great, I feel like really great abstract images are separated by people who have a lot of patience, which I tend to not have when it comes to shooting small scenes like that. But since I'm putting a direct focus on that kind of stuff and something I want to get better at, I am spending a lot more time to try to perfect these images and get them to look as best as they possibly can, at least to my liking. And I've got so many great opportunities here. Not only, like I said, do we have the rippling trees reflecting in the water over there, but again, these close trees that are hanging over the water, their branches are creating some really nice dark rippling reflections. There was a few stray leaves in the water, and it's just a smorgasbord of things to try to photograph right now. So that's what I'm going to work on. I've had great success already with some of the images that I've gotten. A few small scenes, a few abstract scenes, and yeah, I'm going to keep shooting while the light is still good and see what we can get. And in order to get more of these rippling water reflections, I do need to go ahead and put my 600 back on, because I took that off to get a wider scene, which is actually like right behind me as it stands. And I kind of like it. It's an interesting scene. We'll see if I feel the same way about it later on. Just realizing now there's a little smudge on my polarizer. That's never fun. Gonna need to get that off in a second. Yeah, the light is starting to get really good over there on the other side of the lake. Perfect timing. Just want to grab a microfiber cloth, clean this polarizer off real quick. I've been doing a lot of research on photo pills. For those that don't know about photo pills, it's a great photography app, and you should definitely get it if you don't already. Not sponsored to say that. But it allows you to basically put a pin on a certain location, and you can see firsthand basically where the sun is going to fall, where the sun's going to rise in relation to any given location. And that's super awesome if you're trying to plan a scene that requires sunlight at, sunset or sunrise. kind of like these scenes that I'm shooting now, you know, I want to know what time, at this time of year, these trees are going to start getting illuminated. And that happens to be right about now. And obviously as the year progresses, that's going to change, so it's helpful to keep an eye on that stuff so you don't get caught off guard. But I'm going to walk down a ways because it's starting to look really good on that end of the lake and kind of okay on this side. All right, so I'm shooting some B-roll really quickly here on my camera just so you guys can get a look at basically what I'm looking at and what I'm trying to shoot right now. You can see those reflecting tree trunks, some of which are getting hit with some nice highlights right now. And they reflect in such an ethereal way, especially with the wind and some of the ducks that are going by, some of these mergansers. They're leaving these really awesome ripples, although some look better than others. Really depends on which way the wind blows and how intense it does. But it just makes this really painterly, just mysterious almost looking image, and I'm really excited about doing more of this stuff lately, so just figured I'd give you guys a quick little look at what I'm looking at so this whole thing makes a little bit more sense. But I'm going to move down because as you can see down there, it's a lot brighter down there, so I think my best chance to get the type of images I'm after are going to be down on that end of the lake, which I did realize earlier by checking out photo pills and seeing that at the end of the day, the angle of the sun is going to be pointing more down on that side of the lake than on this side of the lake. So the nice thing about shooting this kind of stuff too is you do not need to worry about having a polarizer on because you want the reflections. So that just means less gear to mess around with, which is always a positive in my book. You really kind of got to be on your toes when you're trying to get a lot of these rippling patterns because they change second to second, especially as the wind picks up and as it dies down. So many opportunities, especially as clouds move out of the way or move in the way of the sun. The color palette just changes drastically moment to moment. And the important thing is try to keep the shutter speed very, very high. I'm trying to aim for like as high as I can possibly get. So like f8, I would like to be f11 just to have a bigger depth of field with some of these. But I'm like cranking the ISO as basically high as I can take it. Maybe underexposing a little bit just to get a slightly faster shutter speed because you really want to freeze the reflections. Which after a certain point, after it gets darker, we won't be able to do that, but just making do with the conditions that we have right now. But yeah, you can see right over there. Lots of nice light on those trees over there. Which reminds me, there's another scene I need to try to photograph down over there, so I'm going to move over there a little bit further. Now that I got some of these ripples out of the way. I think the time for these rippling trees in the water is probably coming to an end, and I probably should move on to something else before I miss another window. Alright, got a pretty awesome scene here. This is what I was hoping for and have been trying for the past couple days. But I think now I finally have something very close to what I've been chasing after. I mean, maybe it could be better, honestly, but the fact that these trees that are at the front of my composition aren't illuminated, but the ones in back are, I feel like that maybe helps with a little bit of separation. And then, of course, you have the trees all reflecting beneath here in this little wetland. And honestly, I'm liking it quite a bit. And this is where I start to panic because I know the window of light is just getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And I'm starting to see so many things. Got to keep a level head, though. Got to keep a level head. Easier said than done. Actually, I might move down a little bit. Maybe right. The problem is I've got some shrubs right here in front of me, and I do not want any branches creeping into the frame that will force me to make an awkward crop later on, which has happened one too many times. So let's try this here. Trying my best to not include any of the sky. F11, ISO 400, bracketed, aperture priority. If anything, I might need to swing the camera over just a tad to the left. All right, one thing that's really catching my eye right now, that tree right there. It's getting hit with some awesome side light right now. I hope the 200 is gonna be enough because I really don't want to change lenses. Don't even know if I have time to change lenses. I'm seeing a little bit of a wider scene right now that incorporates the scene that I was just shooting and that tree over there. I'm gonna try for both. I'm gonna try a wide and then I'm gonna zoom in because I feel like there's potential for both to work here. There's kind of a nice duality between the foreground trees being not in light and that tree over there being in light. All right, portrait orientation, same settings. F11, I'm probably gonna go to F8. Trying to keep as much of the sky out as possible. Redemption. I don't think I've said this yet, but I've tried to film this same vlog going to the same places over the past few days. I've tried to film it like 3 times. And a lot of times I just end up getting so sidetracked because I've been spreading myself so thin lately because I'm not used to this quick window of light again. And I talked about this at length before in the other videos I tried to make, whereas during the winter time, if it's overcast, obviously, which it was most of our winter, you had all day dealing with the same lighting conditions. It just got darker. So I could come here and I could go from one side of the park to the other. Not really a big issue, but now I'm trying to readjust to just dialing it in at one place and giving it my all, giving it my attention 100%. And that's what I tried to do today, and it's paying off, you know, surprisingly enough, right? But yeah, it's just weird getting used to that sort of seasonal, cyclical change. And as I'm talking, I'm seeing another really cool reflection scene as this tree starts to lose the light over there. Let's see if I can... See, the tough part about this is, as I keep thinking that getting lower to the water is going to be better, but it just doesn't end up working out like that because the lower you get to the water, you basically just lose the reflections. But yeah, man, I gotta say, it's been tough getting used to that. All right, you've only got an hour and a half of good light to work with, so pick one spot and stay there. Don't try to go to 3 or 4 different places, which is something I've been doing a lot. It's I think I'm getting more used to it. I think today I'm really trying to dial that in and just go one location at a time, each outing, instead of, again, trying to spread myself incredibly thin and then nothing gets done. Alright, so I've just made my way over to the other side of the lake. I'll give you guys a quick view. Kind of liking a little scene right over there. But a nice change in perspective. I've been spending the past few days on that side. So it's nice to get over here on this side. And I actually haven't been on this side of the lake for sunset. I've only ever been over here in the morning. But I definitely got to come over here for sunrise. Never seen this place at sunrise, and I think with some fog, as per usual, things could be pretty magical. But it is very muddy over here. Lots of really softly lit scenes, and speak of the devil, there's one right here. I might try to grab that. That one's just standing out to me right now. Ooh, so many little unexpected finds, man. That's what I love about woodland photography. You never know what a few more feet down the trail will bring you. So I'm definitely going to try and frame this one up. I don't know how successful I'll be at that, but I'm going to try. I think these are some type of birch tree, maybe yellow birch, I'm not sure. But there is like a few hemlocks kind of nestled together behind them, like in the center of them. And I can't tell if they're really detracting from these two trees or if they're adding to it. So I'm trying to move around left and right, see what works best. I'm not really sure what my fascination is with these two trees, but they just seem to be so softly illuminated, especially because the clouds right now are actually starting to take. And I think some of that reflected orangish glow is being cast down upon these trees, which looks really, really awesome right now. I do have to do sort of a 1 second exposure here, which normally would be problematic, but the wind thankfully has died down a little bit. The other problem I'm encountering is the fact that there is an uprooted tree just to the left of these trees, so I'm trying to keep that out of the frame as much as I can. I might need to crop to a 4x5 because I want to be a little bit backed out, give the trees a little bit room to breathe in the frame, but I don't want that uprooted tree in there, so I might have to just, again, do a little 4x5 crop, which is no big deal. All right, not too bad. Now to get this other scene that I've been looking at. Vertical orientation is looking really, really solid on this one. I'm able to get the road on the left and a few people's parked car that you can see at the trailhead through some of the trees. Managed to get those out with the portrait orientation, and I think it looks pretty good. The 1 second exposure smooths out the water quite nicely and makes those reflections really pop at the bottom of the frame. So fingers crossed this will turn out, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see it, but behind me these trees look a lot different now. Just over the past few minutes, that reflected light has changed quite a bit. In fact, the color in the clouds is pretty much gone. Now I'm gonna make an example out of people. Those people over there that you guys can see walking on the road have been extremely loud and obnoxious the entire time they've been here. And would you believe it? The spot I'm standing right now is a spot where they've been sitting almost the entire time ever since I've been here. And they were kind enough to leave a twisted tea can right there on the trail. So a couple of insufferable people trying to make this place worse off than they found it. So yeah, I'm gonna try to zoom in on them one more time. Assholes, man. Fucking assholes. Well, before it gets too dark, I figured I'd better film the outro, which is something I seem to always forget when I do these vlogs. But I think the moral of not only today, but the past few days, my brother's over there, the moral of the past few days, and really with the changing of the seasons, is I've learned very quickly I need to focus on one specific spot. And this kind of ties into a question one of my other photographer friends asked me recently. They said, hey, what's your focus going to be for spring? And I gave sort of a basic answer, like, spring ephemerals, woodland stuff, kind of more of the same that I've been doing. But it kind of got me thinking, I really haven't gone out anywhere over an extended period of time with a dialed in focus about really any one specific subject. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to change that. And for me personally, I think my focus here is going to be on abstracts and creek scenes, which I realize my portfolio is severely lacking those things. So I'm going to try for the first time in my entire landscape photography career, albeit short, I'm going to try to actually focus in on one specific thing. And that's going to be very hard to do because old habits die hard, because I like to do a little bit of everything when I'm out. But I'm really going to try to have an emphasis on that stuff and see if it will benefit me or hurt me in the long run. Because I've always felt if you try to focus on one thing too much, you miss out on a lot of other stuff, and vice versa. So that's going to be the plan. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Hopefully I inspired you guys to try to think outside of the box, like those water ripples and things of that nature. And what is your focus going to be for spring of 2025 for landscape photography? Feel free to let me know down in the comments section below. Is it one specific park, one specific subject, one specific animal? I'd love to hear what you have to say. And now I get to clean up after these assholes and take that can back to the truck because I ain't leaving it here. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around.